Welcome to Cancer Talks, a podcast sharing stories of personal transformation and collective healing from people who have been touched by cancer. My name is Cheryl Buck, and I will be guiding today's conversation. If you're listening on an iPhone, click the plus sign in the upper right corner to follow our show and get notified when a new episode is released. My guest today is Stacey Lawson. Stacey told me that at heart, she's not just a business person or a politician, she's a change agent. She has been an advocate for climate solutions, the clean energy economy, and climate justice across California and at the national level. Stacey also leads workshops on conscious business and leadership. She is currently vice chairman of Ygrene Energy Fund and an active board member of the Shift Network and the Institute of Noetic Sciences, among others. Stacey, welcome to Cancer Talks.
Thank you, Cheryl. Great to be with you.
So great to have you here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. And one of the things that I'm really interested in people that I interview is, their early life, kind of how you got to where you are today. So can you talk a little bit about where you came from?
Sure. So I was raised in a small town in Northwest Washington State in the Pacific Northwest. It was very rural, so logging, fishing, and mill town. And I grew up actually in a trailer in the early days. My father was he was an entrepreneur. He was a truck driver who bought his first truck and then built a little regional trucking company. So I think I got my entrepreneurial inclinations from my father.
Mm-hmm.
But my upbringing was very outdoorsy. I got my first motorcycle when I was 8, and I raced motocross and trail road and lots of time out in nature and being dirty and muddy and very much a tomboy. And
Wow.
I would say that one of the aspects of my early life was that because of that rough and tumble setting, that emotion and sort of deep inner awareness was not welcome in my family. I actually came in fairly empathic and intuitive and with lots of awareness of the sort of invisible, subtle realms, but that wasn't a welcome thing in my family life. And so I kind of learned to turn that off and went the route of a type A striver. So I became a chemical engineer, went to Harvard Business School, entered the Silicon Valley entrepreneurship landscape, built several startup companies, and have had a lot of really interesting explorations during my career life that have focused largely around sustainability and innovation and bringing new styles and modes of leadership into the business realm that I think were mostly fueled by that early entrepreneurial spirit of my father and being in that setting.
Wow, that's fascinating. It says so much about who you are. And one of the things that I read, I think this was on your website, and you call yourself at heart a change agent, and you believe everyone can make positive change. You said a change agent is someone who can see others as whole and perfect and powerful. Those who can recognize and call forth the greatness in others will be the architects of our future. And I'd love to hear you talk more about being a change agent. Saying that you're not a business person, even though you've had multiple businesses. You're not a politician, even though you ran for office. I want to hear about that. And you're not an educator. So anyway, can you talk about that?
So my journey throughout my life and career has not been from some higher design that I was aware of. It's been sort of an emergent unfolding. And so as I look back at it, I realize that in fact what the underlying energies are around really seeing the gifts and the genius in people and helping to sort of put them together, bring them together, create containers in the forms of might be a startup or an entrepreneurial course or being an advisor, but to try and actually bring forth the true gifts and genius of each person. And I truly believe that collectively we will be able to solve the sort of challenges that face us during this time, that individually we can each do our part, but it's somehow in the wisdom of the broader field that will source the solutions that we need. So, I co-founded the Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology at UC Berkeley, which was the education piece that I referenced.
Right. Oh,
and
right.
there got to work with, hundreds of young entrepreneurs who were looking to, create new Silicon Valley startups. We had a venture lab there, and we spun many companies out of the UC environment. And along the way, I've mentored and coached and advised and sat on boards of all kinds of innovative new technologies and companies. And to me, it's all about the people and them awakening to their own highest self. And so I've tried to bring that notion of sort of the conscious awakening, the sort of awakening to our own power within, into the various projects and companies that I've been involved in. So I guess that would speak to what you were asking.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about cancer.
Yes, let's.
Yeah, let's. So I know that you got a cancer diagnosis in 2018. Can you talk about how that came about? How did you find out?
So it was just weeks actually before my 48th birthday. So it was young to be diagnosed with breast cancer, invasive lobular carcinoma. And I was at the Mayo Clinic for a sort of just routine executive checkup that I do every few years, and got a mammogram, and they gave me the diagnosis. And I'm sure for everyone listening who's had this experience, it's shocking and terrifying. And I remember two really competing thoughts that were simultaneously both very true for me. One was, wow, I did not see this coming. I truly, truly never thought that I would be the person hearing those words.
Exactly.
If you'd asked me whether it was my destiny to have cancer, I would have responded like absolutely, emphatically, confidently, no.
Right.
And so it was shocking and confusing. Yeah. And, I'd been a longtime meditator, a yoga practitioner. I feel like I've done a lifetime's work of self-discovery and, inner work. And so I thought, gosh, like, am I a total fraud? Like, maybe I'm a charlatan. And it was a real blow to my sense of self, right? And scary, of course.
Yes.
And then simultaneously, and kind of equally surprising, probably more surprising to me, was that when I heard the diagnosis, I had this kind of like quickening in my being. I mean, I'll almost dare say like excitement, which sounds really odd. But it was like this wake-up call from the universe I heard it as a step up, get more aligned, and to find my own healing. Kind of, it felt like this call to action. You hear like Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, like the call to adventure.
Yes.
And so it was almost like a feeling of a summons from, the universe or life, divinity, to be initiated into some kind of higher version of myself. And I knew it literally in that moment. It was like a setup for some kind of miracle. And
in the moment of your diagnosis?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
It was like this terror and fear and this blow. At the same time, it was like this very much in my soul. I knew, like, it landed really deep in my gut that this was an opportunity to know what was possible in a way that I couldn't know without some kind of crisis. I also knew really clearly, like, I had this, I will not die from this. That I would somehow, the journey would produce some sort of new awakening or dawning, or some remembering maybe of my own power. And so while it was kind of confusing because I had all this dread and fear and a healthy dose of victim and like, oh, woe is me, this paradox of these competing truths was still, it was sort of immediate at play, like feeling defeated and despairing, but also simultaneously being asked by the universe, I guess, to surrender everything and to step into this new level of partnership to figure out what healing actually was or would mean to me.
Oh, that's really interesting. Actually, that I want to say two things. One, I feel like I had a very similar journey, and when I got the diagnosis, I was absolutely clear I would never get cancer. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yep.
And then the doctor said, "You have cancer." I'm like, what? And freaked out, but not for very long. And then I knew what I was going to do. So anyway, I just feel very aligned with your own experience of it. And I also didn't think that I was going to die. I thought, I have the answer. I know what I'm going to do. I did, and I'm still here, but who knows whether that is how it actually happened. That's how it happened in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, yeah, I'm curious then how you approached your healing. Like, what did you know what you were going to do? Did you then start researching? What was your path?
I didn't know what I was going to do. However, I felt like since I was being called by the universe or this sort of voice, that I would just have to trust that and dive in.
Mm-hmm.
Really, what else was there to do,
Right.
So I kind of acknowledged my judgments and my self-talk and the fear, and took a deep breath and basically started diving into wherever the universe would lead me. I really began just being alert and flowing my attention to
Mm-hmm.
where I was guided. And after doing the sort of initial research just on the medical options, I decided not to undergo conventional treatment, meaning no surgery or chemo or radiation, at least not right away,
Mm-hmm.
but instead to take the time to explore alternative therapies along with my allopathic team of doctors at the Mayo Clinic and at UCSF, and to design my own healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't really like that exactly. It wasn't that they were encouraging that, but luckily I had a tumor type that was slow enough growing that they said, yeah, you have a little time. I don't
Uh-huh.
think they actually contemplated the amount of time I ended up taking. I think they were thinking, oh yeah, you have a month or two kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I didn't know how long it would take to heal cancer, but I knew it was possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so by exploration and by grace, I started following the breadcrumbs. It ended up that, and I didn't know this at the time, but rather, only in retrospect, that I ended up being led on an 18-month healing journey
Mm.
with a handful of major components that I now recognize became part of my protocol, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
But so I began with diet and nutrition. I began educating myself both on, allopathic and natural integrative medicine options, seeking guidance and instruction from a beloved spiritual mentor who I've worked with for many years, looking deeper at my own inner landscape and where my thoughts or behaviors or boundaries were sort of not aligned with the highest form of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and also like circling up with my closest circle of friends and loved ones to support me in that. So I was, hoping I could share some of these core pillars to that healing journey. But I told the doctors that I appreciated their input, but I needed to explore this with a little bit more open field. And we might circle back around to surgery, but only after I sort of allowed myself to be in this kind of, unfolding journey for a little while.
Yes. So what did you do then during those, in addition to what you just said? What can you elaborate on anything that you did during that year and a half?
Yes. So I mentioned I started with nutrition. So
Yeah.
the first real strong sense I got was that food is medicine. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
there's so much research and so many people who've spent their lives really exploring food and our broken food systems as source of disease, but also healthy, whole food, plant-based diets as medicine for healing and
Mm-hmm.
for spontaneous remission of so many of our chronic diseases. So
Yeah.
I changed my diet to a whole food, plant-based vegan diet, lots of cruciferous vegetables and tons of leafy greens, and decided to cut out sugar and alcohol and dairy and meat, and packaged and processed foods, mostly with an idea to reduce inflammation, oxidative stress, eliminate a lot of the hormones and antibiotics and other chemicals that are in our meats and packaged foods, and just say, okay, I'm going to do some clean living here. I found a wonderful naturopath, Carol Laurie, here in the Bay Area, who does work with women with breast cancer. And she helped me to kind of put together a regimen, including a morning health smoothie with all kinds of supportive nutrition in it, supplements, many of which are known for cancer, known cancer-fighting agents like turmeric and iodine and beta-glucan and SC tonic from the Native American tradition. So all of these herbs and supplements that were known to support cancer health. And then also layered in some pieces like intermittent fasting, or the fasting mimicking diet for autophagy, where the immune system can kill off old, cells like cancer cells that are not fully healthy, and rejuvenate the immune system and through stem cells. So basically, that was sort of my pillar number one, was to find the nutrition, supplement, and supportive naturopathy so that my body could have the best chance of finding its healing.
Yes.
Number two, my area number two was what I'll just call like inner exploration. So I was really curious about what is my inner work to do here. The field of epigenetics is now showing us that it's not just our genes. In fact, they're less than 5% of attribution to disease, but it's our epigenetics. It's our thoughts and emotions, our belief systems, our environment that influence our well-being and whether we have ease or dis-ease. And so at the time, I was having some conflict and unresolved issues with my partner, who's now my husband. And I really had to honestly ask myself, like, where am I out of integrity? In what ways might I be living outside of my true authenticity? Where might my boundaries be inappropriate? Where might I need to say no? Or where might I need to say yes that I'm not saying yes? No, when I'm not saying no. And I realized that there were some truths that I really hadn't expressed with clarity and like integrity. And so he and I entered into a process of doing work together. I also found it really, really powerful to dialogue with the cancer. So to see the cancer as like a source of revelation, to ask the cancer, what is its dis-ease? Like, what is the insight that it has to reveal to me? What healing does it need, or is it seeking? So I did a lot of automatic writing, journaling, meditating on those questions, visualization, and dialogue with the cancer. Can I speak to the part? Can I speak to the part here that's causing this disruption? What's the role you're playing? What are you trying to protect me from? A lot of those parts are protector parts, even though it seems so ironic that they're actually killing you.
Yes,
to protect you from something. Right. So there was a lot of interesting discovery in that area. I also spent some time with forgiveness. Like, is there anyone in my life that I didn't think there was, but is there another layer of, anyone that I'm holding resentments that I could drop, et cetera. And in this inner work, I was really focused on maintaining a place of positivity, especially with my partner, Dennis. And I said, I really want you to support me here, where we are both holding healing as the highest outcome. And we are choosing, because I think it really is a choice in every moment, to come from love rather than conflict. Not that we won't have conflict, but when you approach it from love and giving the other person the highest benefit of the doubt, there's just a different way where, solutions open up. So that was the inner exploration. Happy to dive into any of these more. The third for me was around healing energies and the energies of the subtle body. And I've long believed that disease starts in the subtler energy field, and ultimately then will, if left untended, manifest into the physical body. So to help heal the body, I would need to support my subtle body or inner landscape. So there are many energy healing modalities like acupuncture, Reiki, healing touch, even just massage, like that I would totally recommend to anyone on a healing journey to figure out, to explore and figure out which, if any, or all of them resonate. I had a beautiful energy healer and functional medicine doctor in Sausalito here in the Bay Area that I've now seen for many years. And he supported me with energy sessions. I'm also a Reiki practitioner, so I knew the value of that and sort of working with the energy fields.
You were a Reiki practitioner before you got your cancer diagnosis?
Before, yes, I had, but many years before, and I wasn't active
Yeah.
with it. I was just trained, certified, Reiki practitioner. And so I
Yeah.
thought, well, here's the time.
Yeah.
I guess we're,
Yeah. Now I know why I did that.
Right. So self Reiki, but also just really giving myself the permission to have a set of resources that, like my energy healer, like the naturopath, that like massage, that would help relax my body and also help to address any blockages, like with acupuncture, any places where my energy wasn't flowing properly or just where I needed that energetic support.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, through this whole process, I was going in and getting biopsies every 3 months because I didn't know how long it would take for my healing process to bear fruit. And my doctors were like, why are you wanting to come in for biopsies every 3 months? Cancer doesn't work that way. Like, it doesn't just change overnight. And I said, well, you may be right, but I'm not sure about that. And so I want to know. And so I have like 18 clips in my breast now, because every time that, you go in for a biopsy, they put a little clip where they've done that particular biopsy.
Gosh.
So right. And so each time I would go in, I'd get, 1 or 2 on the left, 1 or 2 on the right. And they were just kind of shaking their heads, but they were acquiescing. I mean, they would set up the, biopsy appointment, and it's, painful and uncomfortable. And each time there would still be cancer there. And I'm like, oh man. So this kind of leads to my fourth pillar, spiritual practice. I really, for me, and I know it's different for everyone, their spiritual practice, maybe a walk in nature, maybe a long jog and getting a little runner's high, or right. So for me, my daily practice that I was absolutely committed to was meditation, prayer, guided imagery. I was doing some breath work and yoga, of course. My spiritual mentor was a huge support for me. He was doing blessings in India with the temple priests over there, and so lots of time for rest and relaxation, time in nature, but also in my own, spiritual center. And I would say the most important part of my entire journey for me fell, I would say, under this category, and that was living the 100% healed future now. So I would sit in my meditation, and it took me probably 3 months before I could even actually do this, that I could get my mind to actually to do it. But I would sit in my meditation and I would summon and live that future state, how it would feel when I got the news that my cancer was gone, how excited and how much gratitude that would like wash over me, the awe and wonder of that miracle happening, the absolute like joy of living a life cancer free. And I would sit and I would live that reality until the point where it followed me outside my meditation. So I could sit in my meditation and I could be completely immersed in 100% healed. And then it would spill over into my daily life. I like my whole day, I'd be 100% healed. My cancer is gone. It became really clear that in order to step outside of the consensus reality of the diagnosis, I needed this very clear vision of that positive future. That it wasn't a denial or escape, but an authentic vision of this future that I absolutely, absolutely, absolutely knew was my future. And my spiritual mentor would say to me, what do you believe in more, cancer or your healed body? I'm like, I believe in my healed body. Like, that's just not even a question. And so it was both a sort of like a commitment, it was like a life, it's so easy to think, oh, I can do that. But somehow it took this life-threatening condition for me to say, no, I actually can choose that. And I can actually live it in this moment now. So the surrender of kind of my old consensus, the surrender of my finely worn paths of thinking, like surrendering those, and with a lot of humility and devotion. And, kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you know that character in the Harry Potter series, the Mad-Eye Moody, who he walks down the halls at Hogwarts saying, constant vigilance. It was kind of like that. Every time a thought would come in that was like fear or worry or, oh shit, maybe I'm not healed, it would just be constant vigilance. I would move back into the feeling of wholeness,
yes,
wonder, like, wow, amazing, healed wholeness.
Yes.
And I feel like that was a really essential one for me, because then 3 months later, I'd go in for my next set of biopsies and the cancer would still be there. And I'm like, fuck, excuse my language. Like, oh man. And I'm like, okay, no, I am totally healed and whole. And so my healing journey was 18 months. That was every 3 months. That meant
6 times.
6 times, right? It's still there.
Yeah.
And then before sort of the end of the story, I'll just share the fifth area for me was social support and loving relationships. A lot of folks talk about this, like, in the Radical Remission book.
Right.
I remember her name, Kelly Turner.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Certainly. Yeah. And you see it in a lot of folks' protocols. So really having a group of family and friends who I asked to respect my wishes, in the sense of I needed them all also to avoid negativity or worry or doubt. So I was asking them to step into this place of knowing 100% that I was healed, and to not be worried that I wasn't going through conventional methods to arrive there. It's very hard for my partner, but he was amazing. He trusted my decision and my request that he only support me with positivity. I know he was very concerned that I wasn't getting traditional,
treatment.
Yeah, but
right.
He also believed in me, and that was very, very empowering. I also personally made the choice not to put it on social media. I think this is something personal to everyone, and I know how valuable it can be when people are in their vulnerability, and to read that, like, on social media, and how supportive people can be there. But for me, I felt like I'd rather keep it to a small circle who I knew were committed to this vision of, wholeness and absolute healing, and who would support me in that on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to having it be sort of out there in the ether.
Yes, right. And your friends that I know what you just said about Dennis, right? That is still the same person.
He's not my husband. So
okay,
yes.
That's right. And the friends that were in this circle with you, did they ever express their fears and wishing that you'd go on the conventional route, or did you have that conversation with them and ask them, please just do this with me, my way, kind of?
Yeah. So they, when I first shared the diagnosis with them, they of course expressed their fears. I kind of needed to get clear on what I was wanting and asking from them. So yes, I had that conversation with them, and they all said, okay, okay, we can do that. We'll try. I do know, I think that they were a support for each other behind the scenes, like the doubts and fears they had. They gave themselves, and I gave them permission to sort of, they needed support too. I mean, when you're supporting someone you love, it's stressful. And so they were there for each other. And then in my request for this, 100% positivity. And I mean, maybe as an aside here, I'll say my spiritual teacher is a yoga master, and there's a profound yogic saying that it goes, Yad Bhavam Tat Bhavati. You become as you think. If you fill your consciousness with positive concepts about your health and your safety and your resources, like even the state of the world, that you will become that. And his definition, which I've always loved, of faith is that faith is utter positivity, and basically an unlimited mind, like that all things are already whole, healed, and full. And so I was asking them just to hold me in that faith. and to hold that energy for me so that I could have the support of holding it for myself. And so it was, it was a challenge for me. I know it was a challenge for them, but they were like, okay,
Right.
we're going on this journey with you. When I will say that when it got to like towards a year and a half, that's a long time.
Yes.
Especially my partner was like, "Hun, like, I'm holding on here, but this is a long journey." And so that's when about month 18, I said, you know what? Actually, it was about month 15. I said, I feel like I'm ready. Like even though every single one of my biopsies still showed positive. So I think we're there. I'm feeling in my subtle body. I'm feeling like I've completed this journey that I felt called to, walk on. And the doctors had told me up front that we will never know for sure if all the cancer is gone. Our imaging techniques just aren't valuable enough. And a biopsy is, it's a sliver of a needle.
Yeah.
You will never know unless we go in surgically that the cancer is actually gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of knew that the end of the road would at least have a surgical element. And so I scheduled my surgery at Mayo. My surgeon there was wonderful, but even the day of the surgery, she said, now, if we go in here and find what we will likely find, we need to be prepared to do a double mastectomy. And I said, no, you're not going to find that. You're going to go in and you're going to find dead cancer cells. You're not going to do a mastectomy. And she's kind of shaking her head. She actually rolled her eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Later, Dennis told me, did you see her roll her eyes at that?
Yeah. She wasn't on your positivity team.
And she was fabulous at her craft.
Yeah.
But they just, I was a statistic, and statistically, that was not what she was going to find. And so the end of the story is, or at least was that they went in and all they found were dead cancer cells.
Oh my God.
So
what did she say? She's the one that found the dead cancer cells.
Yeah. Interestingly, it was not her, but another colleague of hers who was the post-operative, and I forget the name of this form of the oncologist who deals with the after surgery, like drugs and radiation and so forth that are post-surgical things. Mm-hmm. When I went in to see her, she looked at my results and she's like, what did you do? We never see this.
Wow.
She was the only one who actually acknowledged. She said, what, this is unheard of. We never see this kind of outcome. What did you do? And I started to tell her these things, and her eyes kind of glazed over, and she changed the subject. So they weren't really all that interested.
After which pillar
I didn't get past one. So yeah, they were really. I mean, I really love the team there. They're just top notch in so many ways. But this kind of healing is not part of our allopathic care system, and there wasn't a lot of curiosity to know like what I had done that created that outcome.
Yes.
And I suspect there probably wasn't a lot of comfort or confidence that maybe the cancer wouldn't come back, or I don't know how they think about it now. But for me, I just think about continuing to live a healthy lifestyle in a healed state and to hold this beautiful healing journey. It was truly a miracle. And I feel like I was empowered. What I recognized is this is the inner power we all have.
Yes.
Every single one of us has the power of wholeness and healing already innate within us.
Yes.
And this was my opportunity to experience the amazingness of that power in real life. Like not just a story, but this is my lived experience.
Yes.
And it was very, very inspiring and awe-inspiring for me.
And it will be for the people who listen to your story. Yeah, it is awe-inspiring. Just to have that experience, even in a small part of your mind, when you're going through cancer, when one is going through cancer, it's so important for people. And it's, anyway, I just really, really thank you for all the the detail that you gave us about your journey. I mean, it really was a journey, and we didn't know until the very end how it turned out. And now I'm assuming, I don't know, do you go back to, are you just done with it, or do you see anybody? I know you said you continue to do the work that you did during those 15 months or 18 months. Do you do anything now?
I did decide to do so they suggest 5 years of in my case tamoxifen because of my age post surgery. So I did decide to do that. So I decided not to do radiation, and I am actually just getting ready in a month or two here to go back to Mayo for another series of mammograms and follow up. So I'm continuing to follow up with my allopathic doctors and to live the components of the healing process that seemed to me to be most personally profound. And yeah, so far so good. We continue to, I surrendered to the journey. So I'm 100% positive that I'm whole and healed.
Yes.
And I think it's also really worthwhile to be, thoughtful and to blend that world of miracle with the world of facts and circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure that my mammogram looks really good.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Wow. I'm curious now. So during the time of the 5 pillars, you probably didn't do all that you did before you got your cancer diagnosis, and like, for example, running for Congress and, all the things that you were part of. I mean, just the list is so long. Now, what are you doing? Like, are you focusing on something now? Are you continuing to be in the space of the pillars? I'm sure you are doing that, but are you taking on anything?
The answer is yes. Although I will say that I think I'm doing it in a slightly different way. I feel like this journey, and I hope it came across, I introduced myself as sort of the type A driver, but this was much more about surrender and letting the journey unfold and following the emergent calling and not knowing what the heck was going to happen. And for a year and a half, actually even getting, biopsy data that said, not there yet. It's like, oh gosh, am I crazy? Is this what? And so while I emerged with this deeper clarity around our innate wholeness, I also emerged with a kind of different mode of operation. So I feel like, yes, I'm continue to do advising and coaching and sitting on boards and helping build companies and really cool various projects around sustainability and clean energy finance. But I also feel like I do that with a new level of surrender and attunement to kind of the energies and what's being called. I hope I had some of that all along, but I think this journey definitely brought it home in a new way.
Yeah,
and
put it very front and center. Yeah,
transformational for me.
Yeah.
As I think a cancer journey is for everyone who undertakes it.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave a review in your podcast app. Cancer Talks is a platform for anyone who has been touched by cancer. Write to us at info@cancertalks.com if you have a story to share. If you're moved to donate, and we hope you are, please visit cancertalks.com/donate.